ABC Radio New South Wales.
Yes, and as you've been hearing in the news today, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has rejected claims that Labor is planning to change the date of Australia Day. It has, however, changed the rules relating to citizenship ceremonies, giving local councils the flexibility to choose whether or not to hold those ceremonies on Australia Day or 3 days before or after January 26. Andrew Giles, the Minister for Immigration, announced this today. They can be held from January 23rd to 29th, although he said it's the government's strong expectation that councils conduct ceremonies on January 26. And he stressed this was a pragmatic decision, emphasising the cost of running events on a public holiday. What do you think about this? Some councils have been pushing for this change for some time, and just last week, Dubbo Regional Council agreed to trial moving Australia Day events to 25th of January. The Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson, joins us now. Hello there.
Yeah, good afternoon, Lindsay. Great to be chatting to you.
Lovely to talk to you. Why did Dubbo Council change the date of Australia Day events?
Well, we didn't quite change it. We half changed it, and this is part of the issue, and it's very interesting that this has now happened today. We're taking full credit for this, of course, Lindsay, with my tongue slightly in my cheek. We've been talking to the Department of Home Affairs for many months now, both our staff at Council and myself. I got involved in the conversations because I couldn't believe how ridiculous it was. The Australian Citizenship Ceremonies Code is quite specific, that because we have more than 20 new citizens throughout the year, we must, according to the code, have a ceremony, a citizenship ceremony, as part of our Australia Day ceremony celebrations on the 26th of January. Now, we've got two major communities in our local government area. Dubbo has more than 20 new citizens throughout the year. Wellington, a smaller community, has less than 20. So as much as we wanted to move both of those ceremonies to a twilight event on the 25th of January, we were snookered by the Department of Home Affairs, and we had some, as I say, some robust conversations, and we were told very clearly that we'd be breaching the code. So our council only about a week ago, just over a week ago, resolved to have the Wellington event as a twilight event, and then the Dubbo event, just because the rules were in place, we had to have on Australia Day. Now, of course, here we are, just over a week later, and they've changed the rules. So we could have it now on a twilight event if we so desire, but unfortunately there's a lot of processes in place that would have to change now. So we're going to stick with what we'd already resolved to go forward with at this stage, but 2024, that gives us the flexibility to make some changes there.
Your Facebook page has many views, many of them passionate on many different sides. How has the local community responded to changing the date for the twilight event, as you're saying, for Wellington?
Well, it has been interesting, and as you quite correctly say, there's been a lot of discussion there, a lot of very passionate discussion. I like the way you put that. And the view really, sometimes it comes down to that whole idea that it's changed the date. And we've been very careful to say we're not trying to change the date. One of the things that we took note of was that the Prime Minister himself, over many years, has presented the Australian Citizen of the Year, for example, and other Australia Day awards at a twilight event before the actual Australia Day itself, so on the 25th of January. So we thought if it's good enough for the Prime Minister to do that, then surely it would be good enough for our Wellington community to do that. Obviously, the important part here is that we've got 16.5% of our population in the LGA that identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders. And we also fully understand that the 26th can be a day that's a painful day for them. Obviously, some people call it Genocide Day, Invasion Day, a day of mourning. So we thought if we can just make a minor change and bring it to a twilight event, if that helps 16.5% of our community engage with Australia Day, then surely that's a good thing. And this all came on the back of the recent elections at the end of last year. We had 2 Aboriginal councils elected out of our 10, and both of those came to our Australia Day this year. One of those spoke at Australia Day and talked about unity, about the idea of if you're going to talk about unity, you've got to act out unity. And so he participated in our Australia Day celebrations, and then councillors went over to a Sorry Day event or an Invasion Day event, and we participated with the Aboriginal community in that. And so that was our way at the time of getting some sort of unity. But this way, we believe we can even get a step closer and really involve both communities in the one celebration.
So when Andrew Giles today said that it's a pragmatic decision, the cost of running events on a public holiday, spreading it out to spread some of the cost out, that there is some of that in your decision, but also cultural sensitivities with the First Nations people.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It really was done from a cultural perspective in our minds. Doing it as a twilight event, if our staff have got to be involved after hours the night before or on the morning of, the cost to the council, the cost to the community is going to be very similar. So it's not really a cost-saving exercise from our perspective. But we've also introduced a couple of other things. One thing that's interesting in our community is that 18.8% of our community have been born overseas. So we've got this real multicultural feel. So after the Australia Day event, rather than having some entertainment, maybe some clowns, some things for the kids afterwards, we're changing that to have a multicultural food stall and multicultural market event to really recognise the impact that this whole different community is bringing to Australia. So it's really that combination of 60,000 years of history as well as 5 seconds of history where people are moving to our community. And again, one other thing we're adding, is apart from the Mayor of the day and the Ambassador speaking, we're introducing an Aboriginal elder to speak at the ceremony, again, to get that context of what it means for a whole range of different people.
The local Wiradjuri group of people. So what about going forward? And you say that because this announcement's only just come today and you made the decision to move the twilight ceremony for Wellington just last week, do you expect that the government's announcement today will further change how Dubbo Council runs Australia Day events?
Well, for the ones next year, we've really locked them in already. We've started all the planning, and it would be because it was a resolution of council, we'd need a rescission motion and a whole range of things. So we'll run those events, and what we did say to the community was after those events, we'll then survey the community, survey people there at both events, survey the broader community to see what they thought. We did tell the community it's a trial event, and that's exactly what it is. And so then after that, we'll go forward and make a decision for 2024. But again, we'll have some information with some minor changes that we've made, and we'll have that survey data. And then we'll also have that flexibility. We know we've got 3 days before or 3 days after to do it. I suspect that based on the way councillors spoke when we made this decision, that it's a good possibility that we might end up with 2 twilight events. But I don't want to put words in the mouths of councillors because we'll wait and see that information come out after those 2 events.
What are you hearing, or are you hearing any murmurs from other councils here about how they'll change their event?
Well, not yet, and this is obviously very new. The actual code hasn't even been updated yet, Lindsay. If you went and Googled Australian Citizenship Ceremonies Code and downloaded the code right now, it would still stipulate that 26th of January. So this is obviously very hot off the press. It's really based on some communication from the Department of Home Affairs and obviously a media release. So other councils probably haven't really thought about it. Most of them have already got their things locked in for next year. There's a lot of planning that goes into an event like this. Even the new citizens, if we were to try and change it now, you have to get all the certificates that have been sent to us from the department all reprinted because they've actually got the date of the new citizens that are coming as part of Australia. So I haven't really talked to other councils yet at this stage, and I suspect they'll sit back and wait and see how it goes for Dubbo, how it goes for other locations to see whether or not they want to go and make some changes. Or, as the Minister said, more than likely most councils will still probably stick to the 26th of January. It's a very sensitive issue on both sides of the debate, and so you've got to be a bit brave, you've got to be a bit innovative to actually go forward to make any changes. So I suspect many councils will leave it alone.
All right, Matthew Dickinson, Mayor of Dubbo Council, thank you for speaking to us today, and have yourself a nice weekend and a nice Christmas.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. And talk to me after 26th of January and I'll tell you how it all went.
That would be lovely, and I'm sure your constituents will certainly make their opinions known as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
ABC Radio across New South Wales is where you are.